welcome to a Halloween-themed Patreon-exclusive episode of Allegedly Astrology. Each episode, we break down the astrology that happened during some of the biggest scandals and events in history. So Dana, what are we talking about?
Today we're talking about the New Orleans House of Horrors, aka the LaLaurie Mansion.
And the mansion was located at 1140 Royal Street in the French Quarter of New Orleans, and it's the city's most famous haunted house that has since become a pop culture phenomenon. The house and its owner, New Orleans socialite and serial killer Madame Delphine LaLaurie, have been featured in books, captivated tourists, appeared on ghost adventure TV shows, fictionalized an American Horror Story Coven, and will even be a central figure in the Conjuring horror franchise. So let's learn about the astrology behind this infamous house and its owner.
So Marie Delphine McCarty was born to a wealthy family in New Orleans. She was raised on the family plantation and, it was just like a luxe life. At age 14, she married her first husband, who was 20 years older than her, and he would later die of suspicious circumstances. She would then get married again, have a few kids, and then that husband also would die under suspicious circumstances. So what is her big three?
Okay, so she was born on March 19th, 1787 at 1:15 p.m. in New Orleans, and she has a Pisces sun, Aries moon, and a Cancer rising. Her Pisces sun is at 29 degrees, so this is the final degree of the zodiac. You could argue maybe that it's the anaretic degree since it's like the final degree in all of them, which makes it extreme. And it's ruled by Jupiter in Taurus. Pisces are victims and Taurus likes to collect things. So I feel like she collected victims.
Damn.
Yeah. Boom. Aries.
Creepy.
Her Aries moon's at 1 degree and it's ruled by Mars and Aquarius, which is conjunct her natal Saturn, Pluto, and Venus. And so this is like power and entitlement. It's in the 8th house of death. So it's just also like maybe not feeling special enough or really wanting to feel special. Also, she was born on a Pisces new moon, but her moon had entered Aries. So they're almost conjunct. They're within 3 degrees of each other, but they're in different signs. And I feel like that's sort of like the self emerging from this like victimhood. Her Cancer rising is conjunct Uranus with the South Node in the 1st house. And Cancer is ruled by that Aries moon. So I just feel like this is all like kind of perverted and intense. Uranus in Cancer is not the mother that you it sort of like perverts the idea of the mother. And with the South Node there too, it's like just really taking away. It's also, I feel like, jealous of youth. She also has Neptune in Libra conjunct her natal IC. So this like lacks object permanence. It's also like maybe feeling unstable at home or just sort of like having this like very warped idea of like beauty, since the 4th house can relate to a lot of like childhood psychology, and Neptune in Libra is both. It could also be confusion in relationships, right? And it's trining that Aquarius stellium, which once again has Saturn conjunct Mars and Pluto conjunct Venus. So that's power, love, wielding restriction, as well as like going to war. I feel like she's very measured, and to have that in the 8th house, which is the house of your partner's finances.
Yeah, she was good at getting money. I feel like also it seems like she was probably on the outside seemed like fun and hot, but then deep down was like fucking insane. Because she does have like Jupiter in Taurus in the 11th, so probably like outwardly like she had like a ton of money. This bitch was always throwing parties. She was like fun, Cancer, probably like a hottie. But then, I'm sure she was just not one to be fucked with.
Yeah, Cancer rising too, especially with like Uranus and the South Node could she wanted to stay young forever. I feel like that could really have a hard time contending with your age, since the moon is always changing, so you could like feel like you're aging rapidly. It's also has to do like women. But yeah, that's a really good point. She definitely was good at networking.
Yeah. And also Mercury in Aries, I'm sure she like honestly was all about like number one and getting what she wanted.
Well, then one day a young doctor named Leonard LaLaurie caught her eye. He was much younger than her, actually, but Delphine was living that cougar life and got wifed up yet again, making Leonard husband number 3.
And it was at this time she bought the now infamous estate on Royal Street and took control of the enslaved people within the household that were used as servants. So, Dana, what was going on when she purchased this motherfucking house?
We don't have the day, but we don't even need it. She purchased it in 1831, and I looked at the eclipses and her solar return for this year. And on February 12th, 1831, there was a solar eclipse in Aquarius tightly conjunct her natal Mars-Saturn conjunction. So that 8th house, that like power, she's getting hers. And Marie's was also in a 9th house Pisces year. So Jupiter is her time lord. And in her solar return chart, Jupiter is exactly conjunct Uranus, conjunct Marie's natal Venus. So this is like Jupiter is luck, Uranus is like sudden changes, and Venus is aesthetics. And her natal Venus rules both her natal fourth house of Libra and the house of home, as well as her natal Jupiter in Taurus, which rules her sociopathic sun and also is her time lord of the year. She's also in her Saturn opposition, which I think is fighting herself. So yeah, this eclipse was also opposite Saturn. So I don't want to give any spoiler alerts, but like that kind of shows how things end up with this eclipse. Like once they got the house, maybe they had to like fight for it, or maybe they did something dirty, maybe not. But the eclipse opposite Saturn in Leo is in detriment, because it's like Saturn can like get you self-focused with in a Leo placement, and then therefore like get too wrapped up in itself and not end up being able to be productive. That's like the extreme. But yeah, so this eclipse is opposite its ruler. So again, we have this opposition, which I feel like really sort of spoke to the house, especially because she's just so dehumanizing, and that's sort of like what Aquarius at its darkest can do.
Oh, I was also just going to say, because isn't the sixth house, like, doesn't it also rule like enslaved people and like servants?
Yes, and hers is ruled by Jupiter.
To learn more about Madame LaLaurie's horrific crimes, her biwhale with American Horror Story Coven, and why her house is still haunted to this day, subscribe to Allegedly Astrology's Patreon.